Steve Jobs built some of the most iconic products in history: the iPhone, the Mac, the iPad. But what if I told you he made one massive mistake that cost him trust, relationships, and even control of his own company? And the worst part is that most business owners are making the exact same mistake right now. They're obsessing over the product when they should be obsessing over the person. And today I'm going to break down exactly what Jobs got wrong and what you can do instead to build a business that thrives. And I'm actually going to use somebody else as an example, since I've obviously not built a $1 trillion company. But the good news is you don't have to sacrifice people in order to create something great. There's a better way. And I'm going to show you how successful leaders today are proving it works. So let's dive in. You see, Jobs' mistake is that he focused on the product instead of the people. Steve Jobs was obsessed with the product. Every detail had to be perfect, from the shape of the iPhone to the font used on the Mac. This perfectionism did lead Apple to become the giant that it is. But here's the problem: he prioritized the product at the expense of his team and his customers. His leadership style was ruthless. He pushed people to their limits and beyond. He created a very high pressure environment, and eventually it caught up with him. He was fired from Apple, his own company, mostly because of how he treated people. Now, compare that to Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft now. When he took over Microsoft, instead of focusing purely on the product, he focused on the people. And so what happened? Well, Microsoft became a dominant force in the industry again after like more than a decade of falling behind. So if you're running a business, here's the question: are you building a great product or service and hoping people will follow? Or are you building something that people actually want by understanding and serving them first? By focusing on the customer first, you'll build a better product or service. Apple products were revolutionary, but their closed system alienated developers and users. Now, Jobs wanted control over everything, while Microsoft, on the other hand, made a massive shift under Nadella. Instead of forcing people into their ecosystem, they actually met their customers where they were. And that's why Microsoft actually embraced open source, bought GitHub, and introduced the Windows subsystem for Linux. Now, that wasn't about control. It was actually about serving developers and making their lives easier. And that worked because Microsoft remains one of the most valuable companies in the world. And so the lesson here is that a great product isn't great because you say it is. It's great because it solves a real problem. And if you put your customers first, you will naturally build better products. And that's how you win. You have a great product, you have a great service, but it's actually a byproduct of caring about your customers. Obviously, Jobs built great products, but he did it at the expense of his people. And if he instead put that intense focus on the people that would be using the product and the people making the product, it would have had better results. By focusing on your team, you will build a better business. Now, Jobs believed in pushing people hard. He thought that fear and pressure made people perform better. And sure, it worked until it didn't. His leadership style led into a toxic culture, created burnout and high turnover. But if we look over at Microsoft with Satya Nadella, he actually inherited Microsoft. It was struggling at the time. But instead of pushing people harder, he actually empowered them. He focused on collaboration, empathy, and growth. And the result was Microsoft went from a stagnant company to one of the most valuable companies in the world. So the question for you is, are you forcing your team to perform, or are you creating an environment where they can do their best work? And that difference is going to determine if you build something that actually lasts. So here's the big takeaway from this quick video. The biggest mistake that Steve Jobs made was focusing only on the product instead of the person. Your customer and your team are your business. If you get that right, the great products and service will follow. If you want to build a thriving business, there's another crucial piece that you need to understand, and that's how real consulting profits work. And so you can actually click here and watch my next video on where real consulting profits come from. I think it'll actually change how you think about pricing and value. So I'll see you in the next video.